Welcome to The Explainer. So, let's talk about something that should probably keep you up at night if you're running a business in the cloud. What happens when the cloud just fails? We're diving into cross-region disaster recovery today, which is basically your plan for surviving the absolute worst-case scenario.
Okay, let's just jump right into the nightmare scenario, right? The one every single cloud architect dreads but absolutely has to plan for. Imagine an entire AWS region, and I mean all of it, every data center, server, all the services, just goes dark. What actually happens then?
Well, for your application, and more importantly, for your users, that's the answer. It's simple, it's brutal. A regional failure means a total, catastrophic outage. Your service? It's just gone.
So, to really get a grip on what's at stake here, let's ground this in something real. We'll use a typical software-as-a-service app, a SaaS app, that's serving maybe thousands of customers.
And this is the real problem we're trying to solve. Look, we're not talking about a single server blinking out. We're talking about a massive, widespread failure that takes out multiple, supposedly redundant data centers all at the same time. I mean, how do you even begin to survive something like that?
All right, before we start architecting anything, we've got to take a step back and define our goals. You can't build a solution if you don't know what you're aiming for. And in the world of disaster recovery, it all boils down to two key metrics, and these have to come from the business.
First up, we've got the Recovery Time Objective, or RTO. The easiest way to think about this is like it's your stopwatch. It answers that one critical question: how fast do we absolutely have to be back up and running? Are we talking 5 minutes, 4 hours, maybe even a whole day?
And the second one is the Recovery Point Objective, RPO. If RTO is the stopwatch, think of RPO as your data clock. It asks a slightly different but equally important question. How much of our most recent data can we afford to lose? Forever. Can you live with losing the last hour of transactions? Or is losing even a few seconds worth of data completely unacceptable?
So when you put these two together, you get to the fundamental trade-off at the heart of any DR plan. RTO, that's your recovery time, is all about speed. RPO, your recovery point, is all about how fresh your data is. And here's the key: you are always balancing one of these against the other. Okay, so we've got our goals defined, how fast we need to recover and how much data we can't afford to lose. Now let's look at the actual strategies you can use. And AWS gives you a whole spectrum of options to choose from. This chart lays out the main options perfectly. On one end, you've got backup and restore. It's definitely the cheapest way to go, but your recovery could take hours, maybe even days. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have active/active. This is where you're running your entire application in two places at once. Yep, recovery is almost instant, but you can bet the cost is going to be sky high. And then, right there in the middle, you've got this sweet spot, a balance, called warm standby. And this really gets to the heart of it. Your choice here isn't really a technical decision, it's an economic one. It all boils down to how much your application is worth and how much financial pain every single minute of downtime actually causes. You're basically deciding how big of an insurance premium you're willing to pay to protect yourself from a total catastrophe. All right, enough theory. Let's make this real. We're actually going to architect a solution, and we'll focus on that warm standby option for our sample SaaS app. People often call this an active-passive design, and honestly, for a lot of applications, it hits that perfect balance between cost and recovery time. So we're going to build this thing in 3 key steps. First, we have to make sure our data is safe and copied over to the recovery region. Second, we need to do the same for all our files. And third, the final piece, we need a way to automatically redirect all of our users when a disaster actually happens.
Okay, step 1, and it's the big one: the data. The database is the heart and soul of most applications, right? So we have to make sure our core data is always available and pretty much up to the minute in that second region. And you know what? AWS makes this surprisingly easy. We can just create what's called a read replica of our main database and stick it in another region. What we get is a near real-time copy just sitting there ready and waiting. If our primary region goes down, all we have to do is promote that replica and boom, it becomes the new primary database. We can get this done in just a few minutes.
All right, step 2. Let's talk about the files. This is stuff like user profile pictures, any documents they've uploaded, maybe static assets for your website. Basically, if it's stored in Amazon S3, we've got to replicate it too.
And just like with the database, AWS has a killer feature for this. S3 has something called cross-region replication. You literally just flip a switch and S3 takes care of everything, automatically copying every new file from your main bucket to your backup bucket in the other region. It's almost too easy, and it's super reliable.
Okay, quick recap. Our data is safe. Our files are safe. They're all sitting pretty in our standby region. But how do we get our users over there when the primary region is a smoking crater? This is the final and maybe most critical piece of the puzzle.
And this is where Amazon Route 53 comes in to save the day. Think of it as our intelligent traffic controller. We set up these little health checks that are constantly pinging our main application. The second those checks start to fail, Route 53's failover policy just kicks in completely automatically, no human intervention needed, and it reroutes every single user to our healthy, warm standby region. It's pretty amazing.
So there we have it. We've designed a really robust, automated solution. But now we have to face the music. We've got to answer the question every single business leader is going to ask. Okay, great. What's this going to cost me?
And this chart just lays that economic trade-off out perfectly. Look at this. As you push your recovery time, your RTO, down closer and closer to zero, your costs just shoot through the roof. I mean, that near zero recovery time you get with an active setup, it literally means you are paying to run your entire infrastructure twice all the time. That's a huge expense.
So what this all means is that deciding to do cross-region DR isn't just a tech decision. It's a business decision, plain and simple. You pull the trigger on this when the potential cost of being down, we're talking lost revenue, maybe regulatory fines, or just massive damage to your brand, is way bigger than the cost of paying for this resilience. It's a simple cost-benefit analysis.
So, as we wrap this explainer up, I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. You know, it's so easy to get caught up focusing on new features and performance when you're building an app. But today, when entire businesses live and die in the cloud, the most important question isn't just, is my app running? The real question is it resilient?